and welcome to Culture on I-24 News. I'm Oded Grober. Thank you so much for joining me. Today on our show, we'll hear about a photographer who captures holy experiences. A new initiative hopes to expose tourists to Palestinian destinations. And following Woody Allen's move to television, we'll hear of other directors who made the jump. We begin with Sarit Haddad, a highly acclaimed Oriental music singer in Israel who's been performing for more than 20 years now. She recently celebrated the release of her new album in a private party with some VIP guests. Our own Sandy Fortis managed to sneak in somehow, met with Sarit, and brought us this story.
20 years of career is indeed worth celebrating. For Sarit Haddad, party songs set the atmosphere. The Israeli Middle Eastern singer released her new album among very special guests in a private party.
Being on stage for 20 years, singing, doing what I love most in the world is a great gift from the sky. It's a great pleasure to be able to listen to my new songs. It's very moving.
Each country has its popular star. In Israel, it's a young woman from Caucasian Jewish origin raised in Hadera. Sarit Haddad has been singing since she was a child. At the age of 8, she was already secretly performing concerts without her parents knowing. And at 15, she started her solo career. Ever since, her songs are always topping the Israeli charts. Sarit is a successful woman in a music scene often dominated by men.
The audience greeted me warmly and with love, and I managed to make my way as a woman in a man's world. It was not that difficult, but it makes me proud, even if I'm not the only singer in this case.
She was the national figure chosen to represent Israel at the Eurovision in 2002 with the song Light a Candle. But she was also criticized for performing for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu during a Likud meeting in December 2012. Sarit continues to defend herself from his interpretations in the media.
I don't understand why they made a fuss. I just came to sing and perform as I do every day. I don't express political support. I was just coming to do my job.
Sarit always felt that she wanted to share her professionalism and experience with younger artists. This is what led her to become a judge and a mentor at The Voice Israel.
I think we're also there to bring something, not just to sing. So it was important for me to participate in this program. I can give a little of myself, of my heart, my soul, my musical experience, and benefit young singers.
And it seems to work pretty well. In 3 seasons, 2 of her prodigies have won the final. Caitlin in season 1, and in the latest season, it was the charismatic Elkanah. A well-deserved crown after 2 decades of hard work. Today, the accomplished 36-year-old woman releases with pride her 21st album. Titled Sarit Haddad, there's no need for further album names. Everyone in Israel knows who she is. She is the undisputed queen of Mizrahi music.
Toby Cohen began his career in London in 2001, working as a photojournalist and paparazzi photographer. On one of his visits to Israel, he met an old man named Musa, who challenged him to try and capture God. Ever since then, Toby has been trying. Daniel Campos brings us the results.
Toby Cohen has gone from paparazzi photographer to the author of Holy Photographs, capable of making the landscapes of the Holy Land even more magical than in their natural state. It can be a flying sukkah with Hasidic musicians, incredible panoramas, and breathtaking landscapes of people in moments of ecstasy, following the Kabbalistic order to try to get closer to God. He's also capable of recreating famous historical paintings, as he did with Maurice Gottlieb's famous Day of Atonement from the 19th century. The inspiration behind such ambitious project began when a strange man named Musa once asked Toby, "Okay, if you're such a great photographer, why don't you photograph God?" Ever since Cohen was challenged with this difficult task, he has been trying to capture people in the act of connecting to God. Project Abraham is one of his most outstanding projects, and it was inspired by Gustave Doré's Abraham and the Three Angels. The idea of shooting the scene of Abraham hosting the three angels in the desert based on the drawing from 1860 was very important and complex. Abraham represents the father of many nations. He is also the patriarch of Jews and Muslims. But the process of making this idea come alive required hard work, especially for a perfectionist like Toby. The tree that Abraham sat under had wide branches that offered Abraham's guests shelter. Therefore, finding the right tree cost him many trips to the desert. Finding a Bedouin with the right kind of ancient tent, getting the proper costumes and actors to play the various personages in the Bible story, such as Abraham, Sarah, and the three angels, plus Ishmael, were also a task. But Toby is lucky to have loyal volunteers who don't mind joining him, sometimes for days in the wilderness, to help him accomplish his work. Among the results are Abraham and the Three Angels by James Tizot and Washing Angels' Feet, and also Went to Sodom. Among the black and white works, Flying Angels and portraits of Sarah, Abraham, Ishmael, the angels Michael, Gabriel, and Raphael. Events that are historically difficult to prove, but through Toby's work, even atheists and skeptics that attend his exhibition will take a few minutes to enjoy the beauty.
Now, Jenin, Gaza, and Tulkarem are Palestinian cities which at first glance may not seem like fashionable tourist destinations, but that could be changing soon thanks to a new initiative called Pal Trips. David Gombin takes a look.
When you hear the name Gaza, you will more likely think of war, blockade, and bombings. While cities like Ramallah, Jenin, and Tulkarem are linked in some minds to the Intifada uprising. In any case, it is likely that you won't consider any of these places as your next holiday destination. But why not? Although Palestinian tourism is currently limited, a recently launched site is trying to change that.
The site is a reflection of that reality. It is not to show things rosier than they are, but to actually show a different picture that is not the usual image of many Palestinian cities. There is something else to discover here, and you can slowly find out more about it.
Fair trade tourism in a partnership with the locals. Paltrips.ps is an initiative launched by the French-German Cultural Center, and it aims to highlight positive experiences in the territories controlled by the Palestinian Authority. Experiences told by young journalists who were mobilized for the occasion.
The content comes from a collaboration between young journalists, young professionals from France, Germany, and Palestine, who have worked, traveled together in Palestinian cities, and have built friendship through the travel stories they have published. They formed a kind of editorial board.
Tips, advice, and instructions. Paltrips.ps will tell you about unmissable activities, while encouraging you to go and meet the locals. Tips, advice, and instructions. Paltrips.ps will tell you about unmissable activities while encouraging you to go and meet the locals. No more tour operators. This is a friendly and refreshing way of sightseeing.
If you go to Palestine, you will be in contact through our site with lots of small and large organizations that are partners of Paltrips.ps, and that focus on specific locations, such as a part of Jerusalem, Bethlehem, or Jenin. It's a fair trade, a cultural journey.
Beautiful photographs, refreshing graphics, and a collaboration between young professionals from France, Germany, and of course, the Palestinians give the feeling that there's a bright future ahead. Many improvements are yet to be made, but there's no doubt that the approach can boost tourism and contribute to the economic boost of the cities and benefit the residents.
In just a moment, we'll talk about film directors who crossed over to television. But first, our cultural recommendation for the day.
Paris Philharmonic has finally opened its doors after 8 years of being closed to the public. The gigantic structure known as the Centre Pompidou of Music by musician Pierre Boulez, its spiritual father, finally welcomes the Parisian public. 1,270 activities are already scheduled to take place, including 70 concerts of contemporary music, jazz, and world music, and 150 concerts from Baroque, classical, and contemporary repertoires. Hundreds of musicians from orchestras and groups will be invited to play. A diversity of workshops and educational activities will also be offered for adults and children, as well as permanent and temporary exhibitions and a library with 55,000 digital documents and 70,000 physical documents such as CDs, DVDs, and partitions. A great place for music lovers.
And now the lovely Shachar Peled is here with her segment Off Screen.
Hi, Oded.
Hello, Shachar.
So, as you mentioned, from the silver screen to the small screen, but this time directors. Now, as we know, this week Amazon Prime, fresh out of its wonderful wins from Transparent in the Golden Globes, signed filmmaker Woody Allen to write and direct.
So they're investing in new talent, is what you're saying.
Yes,
they're in up-and-coming...
Fresh and new talent, straight out of the box. But for his first ever television series, in fact. So it's kind of new talent on television for their streaming service. This, of course, is not new. We've seen in the past both movie stars and filmmakers move from the silver screen to the small screen.
Right.
But
more and more in recent years.
Yes, and more and more in recent years because television has managed to lure directors because of the growing creative control. And what we're trying to look into now is this the golden age for television viewers? Now, I'd like to take you back. I think the best example in the past for this is back in the 80s, when after his mainstream success, for example, with The Elephant Man, director David Lynch moved to TV. And we, of course, remember what he did there. Twin Peaks, Laura Palmer. Up until today, there's conspiracies who murdered Laura Palmer, this very surreal, mysterious show that still manages to attract attention and creep people out up until today, 2015. An incredible television show. Yeah. And indeed, he managed to do something that kept him on TV and on cinemas at the same time. And if I can quote Michael Lombardo, president of programming on HBO, he said, "The line between film and television directors has really almost eroded." Great examples for this are Martin Scorsese, for example. When he directed the pilot of Boardwalk Empire, and you can actually see the cinematic values inside this show, he conveyed a message to directors. Yeah. You can both have a very successful career on film and at the same time direct, and he continued on to produce great television series. Another very good example is David Fincher, as we know, director of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo and The Social Network. He directed the initial 2 episodes of Netflix remake of BBC's House of Cards. Once again, we can see that it's not only because it's Kevin Spacey and Robin Wright there, but it's a cinematic sense in the way we see the direction of the characters, the way we see the camera move, the editing. Everything here has a cinematic quality to it. And he's continuing, in fact, with a series called Utopia for HBO. So we'll continue to see Fincher on TV as well as on the screen.
The lines are very blurred.
Very blurred. And I think there's a very important reason to it. The writer-producer format that we've seen in Breaking Bad and The Sopranos and The Wire is slowly giving way to the director-led format. And I think True Detective is the best example for it. It's giving a shift in the creative control, where in TV, we usually see the writer-producer in charge and the director, let's say, subservient to them.
Mostly because there are so many different directors working on one show.
So this is the change True Detective really brings. First of all, the entire production team comes from cinema and not TV. And it's really a potential TV revolution in the sense that the series is created in one block by one single feature film director. In this case, it's Casey Fukunaga, maker of the 2011 adaptation of Jane Eyre. So it really managed to change the way TV is done. Another very important reason, I think, is back in 2007, back 2008, 2007, the film writers strike. What we saw there is a decline of 35% in the number of writers working in film. And this had a direct impact to the number of films released from 168 in 2008 to 128 in 2012. So there was a drop. However, in TV, there was a rebound. We saw that in the same period, TV writers had really increased their salaries.
I think we can call it golden age of TV happening
rising.
now.
Absolutely. I think that would be a great title for that.
Thank you so much, Jaffa.
Thank you.
We're done for today. Please join us again tomorrow for our weekend edition. We'll be back again with some new stuff next week.